The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
Back again with another Keefer and Kurre here on TKR Tony Kurre Radio. You can, of course, hear the show at least 5 days a week. And it runs all the time, and people like to listen to it repeated times. And, of course, wherever you get your favorite podcast, we're available on every major industry. You can also check us out on, of course, ABC 3340 for the starting lineup. And we also are seen right here on our YouTube channel, so you can actually see our good-looking mugs as we do the show, talking whatever we want to talk about this week. Now, I just got a chance to listen to Need to Know. And obviously, it was a pretty easy catch today because I knew you'd be talking about what, of course, happened over the last 48 hours. And then, of course, the potential assassination of one Donald Trump. And you had a really interesting take on what happened there. While that was happening, though, we went through something else in this country that I think is amazing. We lost 5 other major celebrities that a lot of people aren't talking about. And I want to throw them out to you.
Well, because I probably don't even know about it. I've been totally consumed with this other story.
We lost a young lady who was known for her Popeye movie, as well as several other great flicks. Shelley Duvall, who was, by the way, she was married to, of course, Paul Simon in the early 70s. Do you remember that?
I did not know that either.
Shelley Duvall was married to Paul Simon. Shannon Doherty, she passed away from 90210 fame and from Charmed.
Really?
She, of course, has had a 10-year battle with breast cancer. She passed away at the age of 53. Richard Simmons.
Really?
Yes. He passed away yesterday at the age of 76. Of course, she's known for all of his fitness guru stuff. And certainly it was, I think you would consider him, maybe not gay, but aloof. Was on, of course, the David Letterman show a million times. And for a guy who really was kind of a fitness guru at the age of 76 to die that young, seemed a little strange. Ruth Westheimer, Dr. Ruth Westheimer.
Oh, Dr. Ruth.
She passed away the day before at the age of 96. So don't tell me that sex is important in your life. She certainly got every single step of it. A man who was pivotal in the winning of the Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl 47 game, Jacoby Jones. The wide receiver passed
How
away
about that?
Passed away at the age of 40 yesterday.
I was going to say, he has to be a young man. Yeah.
He is. He had that 108-yard kickoff return. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
And they ended up beating San Francisco 34-31. And then finally, a little girl, her name was Bella Brave. And she went by that Bella Brave because she was a brave little girl, a 10-year-old who amassed over 7 million followers on TikTok and Instagram, along with her mother, Kayla. She has been stricken and challenged with all kinds of different medical issues her entire life, and she amassed a following of over 7 million people, her mother and herself making constant videos of her life and how she was dealing with her life. Her name was Bella Brave. She had by far the most followers of any 10-year-old that we've ever seen in TikTok history, but she passed away yesterday as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, along with the possible thought process. And by the way, it was crazy because when you can't win something, what do you normally do? Whether it's the Karate Kid or anything else, you got to take them out, right? You got to take them out. I remember when the Panthers were playing in the Super Bowl, and everyone's like, "How are we going to beat the Carolina Panthers with that great quarterback they had, Cam Newton?" I'm like, "Go for the knees, take him out, take him out. You won't win the Super Bowl without Cam Newton." A lot of people believing that the only way right now Joe Biden could beat one Donald Trump is to take him out. Obviously, it was a miss. But just your thoughts on the loss of life. Everyone says they come in threes. In this particular case, we doubled that up this past week. It's been a crazy, weird last, say, 72 hours.
Not to mention, and I don't know any details about this, but I just came across it this morning by kind of accident. Apparently, there was a terrible mass shooting in the west side of Birmingham on, I guess it was Saturday night. There's 9 people dead at a social club.
Yeah, 4 people got shot at a private club through a vehicle, including a child. 3 other people got shot at another area, yes, that would be considered a mass shooting. And it was crazy because I'm listening to NPR this morning, and they're still doing the national news, and I hear a Birmingham story. I thought that was strange to have been doing to doing local news and it was because it was a mass shooting. Anytime 4 or more people are shot, it's considered a mass shooting, regardless of how many people die. But yeah, 7 people died within 24 hours here in Birmingham over the weekend. It was very, very sad.
Because I remember the incident in Orlando a few years ago when Trayvon Martin, the young man, was killed by the guy Zimmerman, who kind of designated himself as the neighborhood watch guy in some gated community, and they had the confrontation, and I guess the kid jumped him, and they were in a fight, but he managed to position his rifle and kill the 17-year-old kid. That very same night, there was a at apparently some kind of drug house here in Birmingham. There were 6 people shot in the back of the head, execution style. And it always amazed me how the Trayvon Martin story, because it was polarizing, because it was some idiot neighborhood Barney Fife wannabe who did it. When Trayvon Martin, he was, I guess, technically trespassing in a gated community, but he wasn't bothering anybody. He was cutting through. But that story had legs for months, and there was no mention of the lives lost here, just like this weekend with everything going on. I mean, these are people that are living their lives, and for people to take away the very existence of a human being, a fellow human being, to me, it's inconceivable. And the fact that, okay, well, that why are those crimes just dismissed? Why are 130 shootings the 4th of July weekend in Chicago just swept under the rug? And the reason is, Tony, to be quite frank, is they're black on black crime, which to me doesn't change the fact that you're ending people's lives. Maybe it's not as juicy an issue as to have any kind of interracial situation there, but I can't believe human life is just so disregarded and callously just, oh yeah, well, we had a bunch of people on the west side get killed, but nobody seems terribly concerned about that because it just keeps happening.
Well, and you know this as well as anybody. Not every life is equal. It should be. Every
Yes,
life is given by God as a gift, and it should be. Every life is important as the next life. It doesn't matter how old you are, what you do, what you're
absolutely.
part of. Um, if you're a believer, you're good to go. But every life is not the same. And you bring up a great point because we talk about. Let me think of a situation. I'll just use Florida sinkholes as an example.
Yeah.
Last year, I think 33 people died in sinkholes, and
Yep.
all of a sudden, we're getting all this federal money, and we're starting to build all these research because 33 people died following sinkholes in Florida, and like you just said, hell, 33 people get shot a night in Chicago. We don't say
Oh,
anything about it, but because
yeah.
33 people are
Standard
dying
operating procedure.
but because 33 people are dying in sinkholes, all of a sudden we got to change the world. And you're right, it is what's sexy. It has a lot to do with the fact that it's black on black. We don't follow any story like we do when it's a good looking white girl. Whenever it's a good looking white girl, we will follow that
Oh
story
gosh.
until we find her. But a lot of it I think is we expect crime in Birmingham and Chicago, and so to have 4 people shot is like it's sad. But I think we're just totally desensitized. I don't know how many mass shootings now. Mass shooting is defined as a shooting of 4 or more people. I think it's well over 200 mass shootings. We used to have a mass shooting like once every 3 or 4 years in this country.
Yep.
I think we have over, and I could check it out. It may be 300. I don't know how many but I would take a guess. I'd say we have over 200 mass shootings in 2024 right now. I may be off by 100, but I know it's in the hundreds. Um, just because we're so used to seeing it, and I want to say that more than half of those are happening in our schools, and that used to be a safe place.
Yep.
So I didn't want to turn this into a death show, but there's something that obviously very bizarrely is happening. Whether the planets are aligning or up, but to lose that many celebrities, to lose that many people, and of course
Yeah.
have the Donald Trump situation happen. Um, and you and I were talking prior to doing the show. An eighth of an inch either way. And you're
Hmm.
probably talking about the Republican Party looking for someone else to be running for president, and all of a sudden, it's our country looks totally different. It's a totally different country.
I don't know if you've seen it, Tony, but today a letter that was written by Donald Trump's wife has been circulating, and she talks about, and it really hit home with me because all you do when the public thinks of Donald Trump, she says, he's just treated like some kind of political machine, some kind of impersonal symbol of dissension and controversy, and polarizes people. Some people, like the 30-something thousand that were at this event, who will be talking about this and in many cases scarred by this experience for the rest of their lives, who absolutely love this guy and his fighting spirit and everything that he stands for. And you've got an equal number on the other side that thinks he's, the second coming of the devil, and he's going to destroy everything. And they listen to all the rhetoric. Even Morning Joe Scarborough said, don't be surprised if this guy starts rounding up his political enemies and starts executing them a couple days after he takes office. I mean, that kind of rhetoric is so irresponsible and so ridiculous. But she pointed out, he's not a political machine. He's a loving husband and father. He's built a great family, a great business. He has a love for golf and fine music. So this is a human being of tremendous amount of layers. He's not just a one-dimensional political figure. And people, again, the humanity of everybody that falls victim to having their life ended by another person. Every one of the people we just talked about, these victims in these drive-by shootings and these violent outbreaks at public events and public places. You're not just taking away, you're not just creating a statistic, you're eliminating a thinking, feeling, living person. And it's to me, it's just one of the great societal ills that I guess people are uncomfortable talking about. But we keep electing the same people and nobody does anything about this.
I think it was really interesting to see the crowd. I've watched, and we've had Donald Trump here at some rallies here. And actually, I think he was here about a year and a half ago. I was actually stopped in just to be part of it, just to see what it was all about, because it looked like I wanted to be part of history. It was just amazing. And I think anytime you get a chance to see a president or a former president in the flesh, I think it's pretty cool, regardless of whether I voted for him or not. No, I agree with you. He is a human being. There are worse people on this earth for sure. You've got to give the guy credit, considering that he's had no military experience, he's had no political experience, and the fact that he's already won one presidency and it appears he's going to win a second is pretty amazing. You could say that he's a goof. You could say that he's narcissistic as hell. You could say whatever you want, but the fact that he has created this brand for himself where he can actually win the vote in this country, despite the fact that he had no political aspirations before this. He obviously had a television show that was quite successful. And yeah, well, he's been stealing from people and he got his money from his dad. I don't care. I don't care. He's still a very, very important person in the ilk of this life that we live in right now. And no, I agree with you. It was interesting to see the people that were at that rally. I think a lot of people just want to corral everybody up, put them in a bag and say, okay, if you're a Trump supporter, this is what you look like.
Yeah.
And that's fair. I guess you could say that. But I mean, after seeing so many microphones pass and so many faces by so many normal people that look like me, that talk like me, that were at this rally, that said, listen, it's just, we know that he's got his faults. We know that he's not perfect. We know he says some things he probably shouldn't have, but we're sure as hell ain't going to vote the other way. So we got to vote for somebody.
Yeah.
And they're Trump lovers. And I thought the woman who said, listen, if you don't like him, don't vote for him.
Yeah.
But don't kill him. We love him. We love this guy. The thing about any type of assassination, and we can go through, Kennedy, we can go through Martin Luther King Jr. You talk about any assassination, it's the easy way out. I can't get my way. I can't win this race. I can't win this vote. I can't get this done. I've got to change. So the only way we're going to do this is we're going to take this guy out. That's the only, it's the easy way out. It's the easy way out. If we can't be, hell, we tried to do it to Hitler. It didn't work.
No,
We tried to blow him up behind his desk.
Hitler survived like 19 assassination attempts.
Unbelievable. I mean, Vladimir Zelensky. How in the hell is this guy still alive?
Oh, that's another subject.
Salman Rushdie just got stabbed again several weeks ago. I mean, Volodymyr Zelensky has had the biggest target in the world on his back for over a year and a half, and they can't take him out. I don't want them to take him out. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
absolutely not.
This guy's on television every single night. You could find this guy if you want to. So, I totally agree. It's a life. It's a life. It's a life. Let me ask you this. And I didn't know where we were really going with this. And I was wanting you to comment on each one of these lives, but you don't have to. I don't really care. I do think it's really interesting, though. Where do you think, assuming that we're 50-50, let's just say you're 50% Trump, 50% Biden, it's 50-50. Let's say it's 50-50 going in to the election. And Donald Trump is knocked out. How does that play out with the voters? Do you have Democrats that go, ooh, this has gone too far. I can't possibly vote Democrat because we just took out the Republican nominee? Do Republicans shore up? And are there more people that want to vote Republican or vote for Donald Trump because he was the subject of a possible assassination? How do you see that?
It's certainly that now that he's survived, it's certainly, and this is so warped and so ridiculous, but it has improved already a very promising forecast for his success, because those images, Tony, are going to be iconic forevermore. We talked briefly before the show about the photo actually capturing the bullet, missing him by a half an inch to the skull, brushing against his ear. They've got a photo taken from the well right in front of the podium of the bullet whizzing past him. You can see the bullet in the photo. The photo of him being led away, breaking away from his Secret Service detail who was pushing him along, defiantly thrusting his fist in the air, with the backdrop of a brilliant blue sky and a perfectly placed American flag. That's going to be one of the most famous photos of all time. Indeed. All those images, and I hate to, you know how my mind works, but when I was talking to you guys last week about our show on ABC 3340, I said our show needs to be more visual. It needs to be where we live in a time where people's attention span is not very long. You've got to have images that stick with people. And this image of this incident on Saturday, that Donald Trump, by the grace of God, is still alive. Those images are going to just, I can't imagine the reception he's going to get when he walks into that convention hall for his speech on Thursday night.
And let me say this,
and you'll see him right back at other rallies, Tony. This guy is not going to cower in the corner. He's going to come back firing.
Let me say this, and I want to get your thoughts on this before you move on. The way he responded through, of course, his own social media platform and through Twitter, I thought was a softer, kinder President Trump. The fact that he sent out condolences, first of all, to the people who lost their lives and the injured people, I thought was huge. And he put that out there first. He thanked his first responders. He said we must stand united. Yes, I saw him say fight, fight, fight. And I was like, oh, man, people are going to go crazy. But he's saying there because, I mean, obviously, when Donald Trump says fight, we fight, right? I mean, there's actual people that just go, okay, let me grab my guns. Let me grab my fist. Let me get my and so when he says fight, it means something different from his constituents and from the people that actually follow him, is right-handed people who are just MAGA knuckleheads. But I saw and heard a much softer Donald Trump. And I thought, wow, if you are riding the fence right now and you're thinking, listen, I don't like the guy. I don't like the way he treats women. He lies at his ass during debates. He does all these different things. but he doesn't deserve to take a bullet for it. No one deserves to lose their life over it. And you're looking for that one vote. I just thought the way he responded, I thought was very, very classy.
And you're
And
going to see, to your point, Tony, you're going to see he's already torn up his speech that he was going to give on Thursday night. It's being completely rewritten. And the word from inside the campaign is this has been a life-changing experience for him, and he is going to throw out all of the rhetoric. And he's already done better in this campaign than he's done in the previous ones, of not being such an attack dog. But I think you're going to see an attempt on Thursday night based on the experience that he just went through, to try to consolidate this country. It's what Biden ran on. And whether you hate Trump or love him, anybody who thinks Joe Biden has succeeded in, getting everybody in the country united, he's probably driven us further apart than we were at any point of the previous Trump administration.
No, and I think he could have been, I don't want to say pro-Trump. I like the fact that he called him Donald. I like the fact that he reached out to him, albeit a short phone call, but I don't think he did a lot to sway any votes. If you were wanting to vote his way or the other way, I don't feel, I want to say I didn't see as much compassion for Donald Trump as I thought I'd see from Joe Biden. Particularly when he said, "Listen, let's not make any calls here. Let's let the FBI do their work." Some guy just trying to take out your butt, dude. That was probably not the best thing to say right there. But then again, it's Joe Biden, so who knows?
Well, let me share some inside baseball with you, which is the term, of course, when you have some information. I happen to have worked for Phil Ruffin. At one point was one of his key lieutenants, who's one of the most successful businessmen in the country. He owns 3 properties in Las Vegas, including the Treasure Island. He has a casino across from Atlantis in the Bahamas. He has properties all over the country. One of the Forbes top 40 guys, and actually is one of Donald Trump's best friends in the world. And had actually sold him the site of the old Frontier Hotel, which now has a Trump property. And he shared with me during the campaign in 2016. He said, I was with Donald last week, and he said, "Donald, what the hell are you doing? Why are you running for president? You're the king of the world. You've got billions of dollars. Your businesses are booming. You've got the greatest life ever. You're 70 years old. Why in the hell are you doing this?" And he said, "Phil, it's broken, and I'm the only person who can fix it." And that is from inside sources. That's not a campaign speech. That is a personal conversation with a friend of his. He believes he's on a mission to save this country. And yes, he's brash, he's annoying, he's insulting, but he's not running for miscongeniality. And the 3 years of his administration, from a policy standpoint, before the inconvenient timing of the China virus, as he refers to it, knocked everything off track. That administration was tremendously successful in stimulating the economy, cutting people's taxes, bringing industry back to this country, and an encore to me compared to this very, very politically motivated administration. I'm not a Trump lover, but I am an absolute hater of what's happened in these last 3.5 years. And the fact that they're running on a platform to say, look at all we've accomplished. Oh, okay, I'm looking. Tell me what you've accomplished, because I don't see any accomplishment in these 3.5 years of poor Joe Biden, who is basically being subjected to elder abuse by being paraded out there as the president, when clearly he is not the man in charge.
It is set up in this country, more so now than ever, that we can't get anything done.
Yeah.
As long as we have a two-party system, we can't get anything done. We know that if one particular party has the majority over the other, and particularly in both the Senate and the House, it's slam dunk. It's over. Forget about it.
Oh, yeah.
You're not getting it done. And that's why, whenever we have some bipartisan type of, we finally have a Democrat and a Republican vote on a gun law, it's like, oh my gosh, even if it's the right thing to do. And so Donald Trump was that one guy. who sees through that shit and says, listen, I'm not putting this to a vote.
Because he's not a politician.
No, he's not. I'm not putting, because I'm wasting time here. If we're
Yes.
putting through a vote because nothing's going to get done. We're not going to. So he just kind of slides by and says, you know what? I'll build the wall myself, or I'll figure something else out, or
Yep.
Hell, Joe did it with the loan forgiving thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the loan
Supreme
forgiving
Court
thing
said
is
you can't do this, and he did it anyway.
So he did it anyway.
There's no repercussions.
There was no vote on that. I mean, all of a sudden we got trillions and trillions of dollars of unforgiven money, and God bless you, that's great. I mean, I got people that had $109,000 student loan that was due until they were 83 years old. They don't have to pay anymore. Good for you. I'm not one of those people. You did take a loan out. You should pay it back. You should pay out back some of it.
But it sucks for construction workers and plumbers and people working for a living who didn't go to college.
About that though.
They're paying for these education with their tax dollars of these freeloaders that are getting off the hook when they committed to that loan, and now they're relieved of it.
You committed to it. Sorry, you want to be a doctor. You're making $450,000 a year, and you have $150,000 in debt because of the. Sorry, go pay your bills. I want to say this real quick too. I would venture to guess that almost every one of us, at least people our age, have been through what they would consider is a near-death experience. Have you?
Mm-hmm.
Have you been through a near-death experience? Have you been through something where you really thought, "Wow, I could have died here"?
Nothing dramatic, but a couple of times, just taking one more step and possibly being hit by a car, or in my childhood, I remember a couple of circumstances where we actually were playing football in somebody's front yard and rolled over a in-ground nest of yellow jackets. And in the frenzy of trying to get away, I literally ran right in front of a pickup truck right in the middle of the street, and he could have easily flattened me, and I could have been done at 11 years old. I still have vivid memories of that. In my adulthood, I guess I've been a little bit more careful, but you never know. There's certainly heavenly providence and fate at work in these situations, and Forrest Gump taught us, is it our destiny, or are we just that feather floating on the breeze?
I remember my good friend Ben McWhorter, who used to work in radio. I don't know if you remember. Ben was a general sales manager for a long period of time, was in radio and television for a long period, was down Southside one night, and someone pulled a gun on him and said, get in the trunk of the car. And he did not. He was like, I'm not getting in the trunk of the car because I'll be dead meat, and got shot in the leg, pulled himself through the streets of Southside to get help, and obviously lived through it. And has talked about that near-death experience. I was actually at a South Trust Bank down from the radio station in Homewood, and actually had a loaded pistol put to my head. I walked in on an active burglary.
Oh, geez.
I was the only person to walk in the door.
Good timing, Tony.
Yeah, and I remember I had two checks for $300 each, and all I could think about was I really need that $600 to get in the account. And so as soon as I walk in, I've got a pistol to my head. Another guy behind the counter is starting to shoot. And so when someone starts to shoot, it takes the crime from here to like over here. When you discharge a weapon, you first of all, you can do burglary without a weapon. It's one thing. Then if you have a weapon, it takes it here. Then if you discharge that weapon, it takes it through the roof. It's some type of felony. I don't know. So this guy's shooting the locks off the doors because he can't get in behind the counter to get the cash. And I'm sitting there with a pistol to my head because I
hearing gunshots. Holy shit.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. Immediately after the guys hop on the back of a motorcycle, they head up to the Motel 6. They got burned, by the way. Stupid. They hop on a motorcycle, and of course the ink blob goes off in the bag. But everyone walked up to me from the bank and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah." And evidently, right before I walked in, another gentleman had walked in, saw what was going on, and took off. And the burglar said, "The next son of a bitch that walks in here, he's dead meat." And here Tony Kurre comes walking in, whistling. I'm walking. I got my two checks, and I'm just bebopping. And it was so surreal. I thought it was like a
movie scene.
Oh, I did. I thought they were doing a test. It's like is this a test? Are you trying to see what it would look like if in fact you got robbed? So that was a near-death experience for me. There was another time where there was a car in the middle of I-65 in Tennessee at 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, one headlight was out, the other headlight was on, and I swear I drove right through it. It was the middle of the highway. I was going 85 miles an hour in a driving rainstorm, and I drove right through it. I still don't know how I got around it. I don't know why I'm here. It was one of those things where I had to pull off the side of the road for about 45 minutes, and my heart was just jumping out of my chest.
Wow.
So when you do it, I think we can all look back on our lives and man, I mean, there's a reason why our bones move a lot more easily when we're younger. You know, you be a 3-year-old and fall down a flight of steps and be fine, but when you're 58, you fall down a flight of steps, it can kill your ass.
Yep.
Um, we can all look back on some times in our life and go, "Wow, that was really, really close." There are other times where you're like, "You should have died," and so I've had a couple of instances where, and it does make you look at life differently. And I'm wondering if that changes anything for Donald Trump going forward. If the
Yeah.
fact that he's incredibly fortunate. I mean, incredibly
Oh,
fortunate. If
unbelievable.
that shot goes 100 times, 99 times, he's done.
And Tony, if you watch carefully, and they start it a little bit. I mean, you can see it in the 2-minute tape, but he had just introduced they had a giant video screen above his head for the crowd, and he had just introduced a graphic showing the statistics of border activity from the time he was president and left office for the 4 years of Joe Biden. And he wasn't turning to look at it. But you know how sometimes you got your hands on a podium. He had said, and if you look at this graphic, and he just almost tilted his head just a subtle little bit to kind of direct attention to up above him and behind him. And that tiny little move saved his life, because if he hadn't moved, that extra inch and a half would have that shot, a hurried shot from a gunman who was already had been detected. So that kid didn't have enough time to set up and really aim accurately. But that shot, that subtle little move with his head to call attention to that graphic, saved his life. The timing is unbelievable.
To prove how deadly that was, obviously it killed somebody on the other side. It went through him and ended up killing that firefighter, that proud man who was actually trying to protect his family.
And let me say something about him. Yeah. 44 years old with 2 daughters. Supposedly, he instinctively tried to dive and get his family on the ground and cover them. And by kind of extended himself in that direction, it put him in the line of fire, and he took that bullet to the head.
True.
This is a 44-year-old guy. The Democrat governor of Pennsylvania praised him as being the ultimate American, went to church every Sunday, was devout and devoted to his friends. I mean, just glowing poetically about what an unbelievable person this was that we've lost. And that's absolutely proper to do so. But at the same time, you hear all the rhetoric talking about MAGA extremists. This guy loved Trump, loved his country, and he's what's classified as a MAGA extremist. I don't think being religious and being devout and loving your country makes you an extremist.
I would totally agree with you. And again, it's when you have these types of things happen in your life, whether it's something that happens to you personally or happens to our country. It is, if Joe Biden said one thing that I agreed with, it's time to PPP. You know, pray, pause, and just let's take a step back for a second and let's chill out a little bit and get our bearings straight. But it does. It makes you pull off the side of the road and feel your heartbeat and go, okay, hold on a sec. I need to get right here before I hit the road again. And I think this has been an eye opener, not only for Joe Biden, but for Donald Trump and for this country and for how we vote. And you know, golly, I mean, you want to talk about some rioting and some issues we would have had if Donald Trump had been taken out.
You hear the term threat to democracy all the time, Tony. This was a direct assault on democracy. The leading candidate for president almost died, and it was taken away. The will of the voters, the choice of the people. That's the ultimate assault on a democracy. And again, you know my theories. If you tuned in and need to know, I don't think this kid was politically motivated. I think he's an outcast and a loner and somebody who was just crying for some kind of recognition, notoriety, identity. And sometimes if a person is an extreme case of mentally disturbed, this is how they make their statement and announce that they are present on Earth, because they're in their mind shunned by others, and it develops a sense of worthlessness and desperation. And I mean, because have you seen pictures of this kid? He looks like a choir boy.
He looks like a 12-year-old. Yeah, he does. And you know, if you're one of these people that hates Donald Trump all the way to the core, and you just wish he'd go away, and I know they've done these things like the best and worst 46 presidents we ever had, and Donald Trump's at the end of it, and then you see some that where he's number one. If you really want this guy to go away and you don't want him to be part of anything historical, don't kill him then, because he will go down in his legacy as a martyr for his people and for the people that obviously 50% of this country believe in. He would go down as their own hero. You know, and not only that, but he'd be taking a bullet for someone else in that crowd that would have taken it.
You're so right on. Let me get my final thought on this. Thursday night, when he addresses the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, and a audience that's going to be, I mean, the people tuning in for that to hear what he has to say after what he just experienced, that's going to quadruple the audience. It's going to be one of the biggest television events in many, many years. And I think he's got an unbelievable opportunity to step up. Supposedly the speech is already being redone to be kinder and gentler and more compassionate and more bonding, to try and invite American people into this tent of loving their country and getting back to the founding principles of the most audacious experiment in human history, a government that's based on individual liberties, where the government doesn't dictate what your life is about. You're in charge of that, and you're in charge of your government by electing the people of your choice to represent you in Washington. He's got an extraordinary opportunity to give a conciliatory message because of what happened to him and the audience he's going to have. And if he takes that tone and delivers the kind of speech that I kind of expect that you will hear, it could be a game changer in every aspect of our lives, because maybe we could get back to being the country that we were before and get rid of all of this ridiculous, endless division.
It is a crazy thought, because when he ran against Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump, there was, I mean, you keep saying the Jon Stewart, you know, where someone says, I'm just telling you right now, Donald Trump's going to win the Republican. They're like, you're so full of shit.
Yeah.
There's no way Donald Trump's going to win the Republican nominee. Next thing you know, 3-4 days before election day, he was out. The polls showed him losing by 10 percentage points, period. Yep. And of course, Hillary was a no-show. And next thing you know, he wins. And just as about 2 or 3 weeks ago, before Joe gets up and does this debate, it was nip and tuck. He was generally thought to probably going to win the presidential, and he's had the worst week of his political life.
Oh gosh!
Not only did he screw up the debate, he screwed up when he came out to talk about the debate. He screwed it up again when he called Vladimir Putin as the vice president. No.
He was introducing Zelensky, and he said, "Here he is, President Putin."
Yeah. I'm like, dude, if you're trying to get us to change your mind here, and then someone tries to take out your opponent, which does not look good for the Democratic Party. It does not look good for the Democratic Party at all. I mean, I've got friends of mine that are Democrats and like, oh, that was the worst thing that could have happened. That's the worst thing that could have happened, is they try to take him out, because that's not a good look either. So, really interesting stuff, man. A lot of loss of life this past week. Let's live on. Let's get after it.
Thank you for telling me, because some of those names on that list, I'm really going to be thinking about, because some really iconic people. I mean, that's unbelievable list of notables that you highlighted.
Yeah, and I actually have gotten an opportunity to interview Dr. Ruth Westheimer a few times. She is she is a delightful woman, but I don't like hearing her say the word vagina. I'm just saying that, okay?
Yeah, that crazy accent. Talking about masturbation and all the different things. She didn't shy away from anything.
No, she did not.
And the fact we lose her and Richard Simmons on the same weekend, two just the most unlikely
Iconic.
major media figures that you could ever draw up. It just goes to show you, you never know.
If you knew one of those two was coming up, you would sit through a commercial break. You were if they said Richard Simmons is coming up or Dr. Ruth Westheimer, you weren't going away from the TV. You were going to watch it.
Those little, that red wife beater shirt that Richard Simmons wore all the time. Yeah. And the striped shorts. I mean, the guy looked like a circus act. And, I guess he seriously marketed workout videos and whatnot, made him famous, but then he became like a big celebrity. And again, that's two of the most unlikely, high level celebrity people you could possibly imagine ascending to that level. We lost them both the same weekend.
Hard to believe that Dr. Ruth almost outlived him by 20 years, and he was supposed to be the health guru, but she was the one that talked about having good sex all of her life. So you make your own decisions on which one. Go do some sit-ups or go have sex with a wife. You decide which one you think is going to work better for you. All right, Saturday morning, 10:30, 11 o'clock, ABC 3340, my friend. I can't wait to see you. We'll have a great show, and of course, we'll be only 5 weeks away from college football. It's going to be unbelievable. Special guests coming up, and of course, all kinds of fun and games coming up on ABC 3340. Till next week, my friend, thank you so much.
Tony, it's been great. Thank you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.